The regions are recovering from a massive Russian attack. The main intelligence directorate has paralyzed Gazprom. There are new details, and the international community is uniting around Ukraine. These are just a few of the topics I'll cover in this episode. This is the day's roundup on TSN Online. My name is Irina Kondrachuk, and let's get started. One person was killed and at least 6 others were injured as a result of the overnight attack on Odessa. The city suffered one of the most massive Shahid drone attacks. More than 20 attack drones struck from 2 directions at once, flying at high altitudes so that air defense systems wouldn't have time to shoot them down. As a result, there were several direct hits on apartment buildings, massive fires, and the city was shrouded in smoke. Serhiy Osadchuk will tell us more about the aftermath.
At midnight, Odessa was shaken by powerful explosions. A large swarm of Shahid drones simultaneously attacked one of the city's residential districts.
There were at least about 25 of them over Odessa. More than 10 came one after another near our building. And on the 8th floor, a Shahid hit. You can see it from that side. It flew straight into the building. All the windows shattered, and then, literally with less than a minute between them, one after another, everything landed right here next to the building.
Here is the apartment where the drone flew in and exploded inside, carrying an almost 100-kilogram warhead. The only thing that saved the building from collapsing was that it's made of brick, so only one apartment was completely destroyed. However, an elderly woman ended up trapped under the rubble.
First, there was an explosion. We got up, I woke up, and then the second one hit right here. So I ran into the bathroom. Right when it hit here. And that was it. Everything started burning. Everyone started trying to save themselves. We all ran. The grandmother got trapped right here. She was shouting, "Help!" She was alive, but by the time we got down, the rescuers arrived, but they had already pulled her out. She had died.
The spilled fuel first set the balcony on fire, and then the flames quickly spread to neighboring apartments. People found themselves trapped in their apartments on the upper floors.
Apartments from the 6th to the 9th floors were burning. The fire was extinguished by rescuers together with volunteers. 5 people were rescued from the burning apartments. Many people were in various psychological states, so psychologists from the State Emergency Service and the National Police were working on site. Residents also gave keys to rescuers and other emergency services so they could evacuate pets from the damaged apartments.
I couldn't get out either. There was smoke here and they told me, quick, get to the balcony. And they put on, well, not a respirator, but gave me oxygen and led me out. The only thing I held on to was my phone. I didn't take anything else. And now I have a burn heel on my arm.
People were running outside on their own, and rescuers were helping them too. Ambulances arrived at the scene of the attack. Medics provided assistance to the victims. Many people had cuts from the glass that shattered and flew everywhere after the explosions. As soon as it got light, utility workers arrived at the scene and began cleaning up the area around the damaged building. An operations center was also set up nearby, where people can file documents to receive compensation for the damages caused by the Russian terrorist attack. Serhiy Osadchuk, Serhiy Halanyuk, Odessa, TSN, 1+1.
Our air defenders destroyed 23 Russian missiles of various types and 185 drones last night. The occupiers began launching them in the evening from their own territory and from temporarily occupied Crimea. In total, there were almost 400 aerial targets. Monitoring resources showed on maps how they attacked our country in swarms. According to the Air Force, 7 cruise missiles and 129 UAVs did not reach their targets, in particular because they were jammed by electronic warfare systems. At the same time, there were recorded hits from 5 missiles and 30 suicide attack drones in 12 locations, and in 7 more places, debris fell. The main targets were Pavlograd in the Dnipropetrovsk region, Shaska in the Sumy region, areas of the Zhytomyr region, as well as Poltava and Odessa, which also suffered destruction. At least 2 people were killed in the Dnipropetrovsk region. During the day, the Russians struck the Vasilkivska community with a missile. And this was after a hellish night and morning in Pavlograd. The city endured the most massive attack since the start of the full-scale invasion. Dozens of attack drones and missiles flew at it. A fire station, industrial enterprises, and a 5-story building were damaged. Miraculously, there were no casualties. Fires broke out over Pavlograd. The sky was lit up by the flames. A drone flew into the window of a private house and exploded at dawn in Kherson. 2 men were injured in an enemy drone attack. And later, in Velitinsk, a local resident was killed while riding his bicycle. He was also shot at by a drone. And in the same village, a car carrying 3 volunteers hit an enemy mine. All of them suffered blast injuries. In Zaporizhzhia region, a man was killed as a result of Russian airstrikes on the Stepnohursk community. The occupiers fired using multiple rocket launch systems, artillery, aviation, and drones. More than 30 apartments, private houses, and infrastructure facilities were destroyed. A railway worker who survived a missile strike on a train in Donetsk region was saved in Dnipro. As a result of the attack on Dobropilya, the locomotive engineer and his assistant were killed. But the train shunter sustained extremely severe injuries. He was brought to Dnipro in a coma, and after surgery, he has even started to speak. TSN correspondent Ol Pavlovska has more details about the rescue.
Fragments of his skull were scattered. 50-year-old Volodymyr was brought from Dobropilya to Dnipro in a coma.
A severe brain contusion with bone fragments present in the brain, and there is blood in the brain.
Announcer, the railway workers were on their way to transport coal by train cars when the explosion occurred. 2 of Volodymyr's colleagues died on the spot.
Volodymyr, loud bang. Didn't know what to do.
Translator, it was very loud. It was a very powerful explosion. I didn't even know what to do. I just froze, and then I started to come to my senses a little. Then the guys ran up and said, come on, hurry, hurry.
Volodymyr, come on, hurry.
Narrator, a complicated 2-hour surgery and 1.5 liters of transfused blood finally paid off. The doctors managed to bring Volodymyr back to life.
Kirilo Tereshchak, the skull fragments that had gone deep into the brain were removed. A day later, Volodymyr was already breathing on his own. And when his mother arrived, she saw him and said, "This is my son's second birth."
Narrator, the doctors are confident the railway worker has every chance to recover, get back on his feet, and even return to work. But he still has a long recovery ahead of him. Ol Pavlovska, Alexander Kulish, Dnipro, TSN 1+1.
Helena Yanovich. Fireworks could be heard in the Moscow region and Rostov Oblast. Last night, explosions were heard again in Russia. Pops were heard in the Dmitrivsky city district near Moscow, in Zelenograd, Istra, and at Kabino. According to their Ministry of Defense, at least 5 drones were flying toward their capital. And supposedly, all of them were shot down. Another 11 were intercepted over the region, and debris damaged a power line. In the Rostov region, more than 50 long-distance trains were halted due to the attacks. A number of suburban electric trains were also canceled. In Murmansk, airport operations were temporarily suspended, although no reports of drones were made there. Overall, the occupiers claim they managed to shoot down more than 70 UAVs. However, eyewitness videos clearly show some direct hits.
Neskrits. In row pi. Just
Hauka Yanovich. They took everything. Hundreds of copied terabytes of data, full access to the internal analytics network and servers, and also the data of almost 20,000 users along with their digital signatures. These are the consequences of yesterday's hack of Gazprom's information system. The hack was carried out by hackers from the main intelligence directorate. And on one of Gazprom's pages, an owl even appeared. That's the symbol of our intelligence officers. The Defense Intelligence of Ukraine claims the cyber operation will complicate transportation and gas supply in entire regions of Russia, because Ukraine destroyed the records of contracts, schedules, and tariffs of the corporation, including data on who needs to be supplied with how much gas and oil. The data from systems that control pressure, consumption, and balances of gas and oil have been erased. The databases of more than 390 Gazprom subsidiaries and branches have been removed. And most importantly, Ukrainian hackers deleted all this information from the backup copies as well. And this could seriously undermine the position of the main sponsor of Russian terrorism and crush the price of its shares. Helena Yanovich. The enemy has occupied Yablonivka in the Sumy region and has also advanced near Yunikivka, Kotny, Romanivka, and Toretsk. These are the data from the Deep State Analytical Portal. According to the General Staff, over the past day, the Russians concentrated their attacks on the Pokrovsk and southern Slobozansky directions. There were 38 combat clashes in the Sumy and Kursk regions. The enemy carried out 4 airstrikes, dropped 7 guided bombs, and conducted more than 130 artillery shellings. They often use Mongols, tanks and armored vehicles reinforced with iron plates, to transport their soldiers to the front line. They also regularly make raids on our positions using motorcycles. In the Pokrovsk area, in particular, our defenders stopped 15 assaults and offensive actions by the aggressor. In the area of Udakny, the enemy is making small breakthroughs in the fields and trying to reach the road leading to the settlement in order to cut off our logistics. Meanwhile, on the southern Donetsk front, it was the Ukrainian armed forces who launched a counterattack. The enemy has been partially driven out in the area of Yalta. The occupiers claim to have allegedly advanced in the Zaporizhzhia direction, but analysts from the Institute for the Study of War refute this information. However, they do acknowledge that over the past week, the Russians have significantly increased the number of assaults. Still, so far, they have not gained any significant advantage from this. Hilya Yanovich, shoot him if he doesn't move any further. Ukrainian intelligence intercepted conversations of the 155th Brigade of Russian Marines. One of the commanders there called for executing his own soldier if he couldn't go any further because, I quote, "There are no sick in the Marines, only the living and the dead." This very 155th Brigade is notorious for numerous war crimes, both in the Kiev region during the occupation and on other parts of the front. They were among those who executed Ukrainian soldiers. However, according to the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, these brutes show the same cruelty towards their own. Killings have long become a kind of motivation tool for the soldiers, to make them follow even the most senseless orders. And not just in this brigade. In particular, because of this, the occupier soldiers often take their own lives, knowing they'll be killed anyway.
Valerie, shoot him in the Marines. There are no sick people. There are only the living and the dead. He has no other options. I order you to shoot him if he doesn't move on.
Hilya Yanovich, every life matters. Ukrainian soldiers rescued a roe deer that got tangled in the wires of defensive structures. The soldiers of the 60th Separate Inhulets Brigade posted a video of how it happened on social media. In the video, you can see a small, frightened animal desperately struggling, trying to break free from the trap. The defenders were afraid the animal might hurt itself, so they set about helping. And as soon as the roe deer was freed, it joyfully hopped away. But unfortunately, both people and nature suffer from the war. According to preliminary estimates alone, the occupiers have caused at least 108 billion euros in damage to our environment. Happy because they're finally home. Another 11 children have been brought back from Russian occupation. This was reported by Ombudsman Dmytro Lubinets. The youngest child is 10, the oldest is 17. And their stories break your heart. For example, for the first time since the start of the full-scale invasion, a mother who was freed from enemy captivity in April 2023 was reunited with her 13-year-old daughter. The girl, together with her grandmother, was forced to stay in occupied Donetsk region, but now the family will finally be together. They also brought back 5 children from one family at once. Their guardian took them to Russia, but the children, who had not been heard from for a long time, suddenly got in touch with their sister in Ukraine and asked to come home. In total, thanks to the President's initiative, the efforts of the Ombudsman's office, and with Qatar's mediation, 1,453 children have already been rescued from the occupiers' clutches. Occupation left without water. The fake authorities of the so-called DNR have announced a critical water problem and warned water will be supplied only once every 2 or 3 days, and even then, only for a few hours. Residents of Donetsk, Makiivka, as well as Kharkiv, Ilovaisk, and Zugurs have already been urged to conserve water. The collaborators and Russian occupiers explain this by saying that water levels have dropped to a critical point and the reservoirs are drying up. Bonuses from the United States of America. President Donald Trump's administration will prioritize providing weapons to those allies who share their stockpiles with Ukraine. This refers in particular to Patriot systems, according to the Wall Street Journal. Germany has reportedly already topped the White House's list. And this is the first time the Pentagon has facilitated arms deliveries to official Kyiv since Trump announced an additional military tranche of equipment. At the same time, another problem has emerged. Western production capacities are barely keeping up with our needs for weaponry. Let me remind you, next week the head of the U.S. Department of Defense, Pete Hegseth, will hold online talks with the heads of the alliance's defense ministries to discuss aid to Kyiv. And those who have Patriot systems will meet on Wednesday. A number of countries have already promised to support the initiative, but there are also those who are ready to join after detailed coordination of the plans. In particular, European governments are waiting for clarification on exactly what will be delivered and when, and also whether Western weapons will be used to strike targets on the territory of the Russian Federation. After all, the spokesperson for Russia's foreign ministry, Zakharova, has already stated, in the event of escalation, the Kremlin is ready to retaliate and shell military facilities in those countries whose weapons are used against them. One of the most powerful aid packages since the beginning of the war. In Brussels, the 18th package of sanctions against Russia has been approved. It targets the Russian energy sector, the financial sector, and completely bans the return to operation of the Nord Stream gas pipelines. After Slovakia lifted its veto, the ambassadors of EU countries were able to approve the document. And already now, Brussels is reporting that the next 19th package is being prepared. Find out what restrictions are included in the current package in the report by TSN correspondent Natalia Fajbrek.
We are cutting the Kremlin's budget even more, is how the new sanctions package was commented on by the EU High Representative Kaja Kallas, also in Brussels. This package has been called the strongest of all those imposed against Russia since the start of the full-scale war. The main focus is to reduce Russia's revenues from energy exports. The European Union has also completely banned all transactions related to the Nord Stream gas pipeline. Both branches of the gas pipeline are actually damaged and currently not in use. But even if they are theoretically repaired, Moscow will not receive any money from their operation. The price cap on Russian oil has been lowered from $60 to $47.60 per barrel. 105 tankers from the Shadow Fleet have also been added to the sanctions list. Another 22 Russian banks, including 2 Chinese ones that helped circumvent previous sanctions, have been disconnected from SWIFT and are now under a complete transaction ban.
The Nord Stream gas pipelines will be banned and the upper price cap on oil will be lowered. We are increasing pressure on Russia's military industry, on Chinese banks that help circumvent sanctions, and we are blocking the export of technologies used in unmanned aerial vehicles.
The package was only adopted after a compromise was reached. Slovakia lifted its veto in exchange for guarantees that its economy would not suffer in the event of a full gas embargo. The European Commission estimates the potential losses to the Russian budget at billions of euros.
This support, in particular, includes the continued supply of weapons so that Ukraine can defend itself, as well as the introduction of tougher economic sanctions against Russia to deprive it of the resources that allow it to finance its aggression.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky thanked the European Union and called for the continuation of the sanctions offensive. Meanwhile, in Brussels, work is already underway on the 19th package of sanctions. At the same time, in the coming weeks, Kyiv is expected to receive additional Patriot air defense systems. This was announced the day before, on Thursday, by German Chancellor Merkel at a joint press conference with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
I am very grateful that President Trump has once again expressed his willingness in recent days to continue supporting Ukraine with weapons. In the past few days, we have reached an agreement that we, as the European continent and Europe as a whole, will provide Ukraine with new Patriot systems, and then these systems will be replaced by the United States. After all, we also need to maintain our own defense capabilities. I assume that at this moment, agreements are being made between the defense ministers to technically ensure this.
We're actually talking about systems that are already deployed in Europe. They are to be transferred to Ukraine, and the United States will provide replacements from its own stockpiles. The Chancellor of Germany also confirmed that Ukraine should receive long-range weapons in the very near future. And he said that this would happen on a large scale.
From Berlin, Natalia Fajbrek, TSN 1+1. And what do you think about the next package of sanctions? Will this work? And how long will Russia keep looking for workarounds? Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments under this broadcast on YouTube. And of course, Give us a like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so yet. In the meantime, I will continue with the TSN broadcast. Most of the 49 Abrams tanks from Australia have already arrived in Ukraine. The rest are expected in the coming months. This was reported by Ukraine's ambassador to that country, Vasyl Myroshnichenko, on his Facebook page. The diplomat was present during the dispatch of the combat vehicles and posted photos of the Abrams tanks. Australia has been supplying Ukraine with equipment and defense gear free of charge since the start of Russia's full-scale aggression. These tanks will make a significant contribution to Ukraine's fight against the illegal and immoral invasion, said Australian Defence Minister Richard Marles, according to Reuters. This powerful gesture of solidarity is more than just military support. It's a lifeline, wrote Ambassador Myroshnichenko about the delivery of the tanks. 30 people were injured, and 7 of them are in serious condition. In Los Angeles, a car plowed into a crowd of people. The incident happened near a music club at 2 in the morning. There were a lot of people at the scene. There was also a fast food stand nearby, which was hit as well. Most of the victims, according to the police, are women who are trying to get into the club. Now law enforcement is investigating the causes and circumstances of the accident. According to preliminary information, the driver of the car that rammed into people was hospitalized with a gunshot wound. The city authorities have not yet commented on these events. And finally, I want to remind you about an event that's worth seeing. I'm talking about the fight between Usyk and the Brit Dubois. For the Ukrainian, this is a chance to defeat the Brit for the second time and become the undisputed world champion for the third time. For Dubois, on the other hand, it's an attempt to get revenge. In August 2023, in the 9th round, he was knocked out by Alexander's punch. And now he promises to do the same to the Ukrainian. But artificial intelligence Grok, in turn, predicts that there won't be a knockout. It says the fight will last 12 rounds and end with a victory for Alexander Usyk. Bookmakers are also betting on the success of our compatriot. Tyson Fury, who once also beat Dubois but lost twice to Usyk, also suggests that the Ukrainian will win. Be that as it may, the fight has already caused quite a stir. The organizers have sold almost 90,000 tickets, they say, so they expect Wembley Stadium in London to be packed to the brim today. Are there any boxing fans among you? If so, share which platform and with whom you plan to watch the online broadcast tonight around midnight. And be sure to write your thoughts under this video about what you found most interesting. That's where I'll say goodbye for now. Give us a like and hit the bell so you don't miss our broadcasts. Stay with TSN.